You know, in a world that is just constantly screaming for our attention, there is a hidden superpower, and it's not about working longer or harder. It's about working deeper. So today, let's talk about the art of getting into that unbreakable state of focus.
All right, take a look at these two scenarios. Does the one on the left feel a little too real? I'm talking about the 10-hour slog. You're bouncing between tabs, you're checking emails, you're answering messages, and at the end of the day, you're just completely drained. But you look back and think, what did I actually get done? Now look at the right, just 4 hours. But these are different. This is that pure, uninterrupted concentration that leaves you feeling energized with what feels like a whole week's worth of work finished. So the real question is, which side of this screen are you living on most days?
You see, most of us are trapped in that 10-hour fog, and we buy into this belief that putting in more time is going to equal more results. But it's just not true. It's an illusion. The problem isn't a lack of time. It's a total failure of attention.
So how do we get stuck in that fog in the first place? Well, every single time you jump to check a notification, or you just mindlessly open a social media tab, you're not just getting distracted for a second. You're actually training your brain, like a muscle, to be what's called reactively available. You're literally conditioning yourself to be in this constant state of readiness to react to everything except the one thing you're supposed to be doing.
Now, to really wrap our heads around this, let's look at a pretty powerful metaphor that frames this struggle perfectly. It's the difference between having the brain of a waiter and the mind of a surgeon.
Think about it. The waiter brain is fantastic at its job, right? It's juggling a dozen requests, responding to every new demand, constantly scanning the room. It's spread thin, and honestly, our modern work life tends to reward that. But the surgeon mind? Well, that's a whole different game. When a surgeon is operating, the world outside that room completely disappears. There's one patient, one critical task. Distractions aren't just a bad idea, they are absolutely forbidden. This is the mindset that creates deep, impactful work. We all default to being the waiter, but we desperately need to be the surgeon.
And that brings up a really important question. I mean, if the surgeon's mind is so much more effective, why do we almost always choose to be the waiter? It feels like we're not even consciously choosing it, doesn't it? What is it deep down that we're so desperately trying to run away from?
The answer probably isn't what you think. This has nothing to do with being lazy or not having enough discipline. The thing we're running from is a very specific, almost primal feeling.
It's this. That's the enemy. That feeling of boredom. It's that slight restlessness, that antsy feeling you get in your skin when you're just sitting there alone with a difficult task. It is a genuine physical discomfort, and our brain, in its attempt to protect us from this negative feeling, will look for any escape it can find, opening a new tab, a quick scroll on our phone, literally anything else.
And this totally reframes how we should think about procrastination. Seriously, let's stop calling it laziness. It is not a character flaw. It's actually an emotional regulation problem. It's your brain's perfectly logical, if a bit unhelpful, attempt to steer you away from those negative feelings. You know, the boredom, the frustration, the anxiety that a big, challenging task can bring up.
Okay, so if just fighting the urge doesn't work, what does? How do we finally become the surgeon? Well, the solution is simple, it's incredibly powerful, and it's a little bit counterintuitive. It's the art of non-negotiation.
I want you to picture this. You're trying to focus. You're staring at the screen. And then it comes. That little twitch, that impulse, the urge to just glance at your phone for a message that you know isn't there, the thought that you should definitely open one more tab to research something. This right here, this is the moment of truth.
In that exact moment, here's the only thing you need to do. You don't fight the urge. You don't try to suppress it or push it down. You simply notice that it's there, and you tell yourself, I am not negotiating with that. It's not a debate. The decision is already made. You are simply refusing to engage. You just treat that distracting thought like a telemarketer. Acknowledge it's there, and then hang up the phone.
Because something really incredible happens when you refuse to negotiate. You don't just avoid a distraction. You actually break through to the other side.
This path right here is the whole takeaway. First, you acknowledge the urge, no judgment. Second, you refuse to negotiate. Third, and look, this is the hardest part, you just sit with the discomfort. You let that restless feeling wash over you for a second. Instead of running, you just observe it. You endure it. Because right on the other side of that feeling is step 4, the flow state. That's the zone, where work feels effortless and time just kind of melts away. If you take only one thing away today, please let it be this. That discomfort, that boredom you've been running from your whole life, it's not a sign that something is wrong. It's the price of admission. It's the gate you have to walk through to get to the good stuff, to get to deep, meaningful work. So I'll just leave you with this question. What is the one distraction, that one tab, that one app that you are constantly negotiating with? And what do you think would happen if, starting right now, you just decided that negotiation is over?